Here we go.
Welcome to the P2 Power Play Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Wilson, alongside
Thiago Cucci. Kyle, today's a special day.
Special day.
The best shirt that I ever saw you, huh?
Dressed up, ready to go.
Oh, my goodness.
Gotta look sharp.
There you go.
Good
we got
job,
the big man on campus today.
Oh, my. I'm nervous, to be honest.
The doc.
It's going to be very good for...
Very insightful.
Yeah, for
Very
people
insightful.
that is watching us. Before you start, so I would like to remind you guys that you can watch this podcast in English, Spanish, Portuguese.
Anything.
Arabic, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So just change settings to the language that you want. Se você quiser assistir em português, é só você trocar settings, o closed caption para português. Se tu quer assistir isso em espanhol, cambia. Eu sempre pergunto para você, Mera Miriam. Tu cambia em los ajustes, ¿cómo se chama isso, Sil? Autotraduction.
Every time.
Every time it's the same thing. So also I want to say thank you for Meta Media. Meta Media does marketing service such as he take care of social media for you, flyers,
Podcast.
websites, and much more. Follow them.
More, yep.
Yeah. Sorry, Kaito. Now it's time. It's a big time.
So let's introduce our guests. We have Mohamed Inshan and Doc. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for coming. The big guy is here.
Yeah. And just for you guys watching or listening, he's literally a master of player performance, and we're going to try and dive into and get as much information as we can in regards to how to be an elite athlete, because he works with professional athletes all the time, and you're going to be very insightful, I think. So I think this is going to be a good episode. So.
Will be very interesting. Thank you so much for coming, for your time. I know your time is very...
one of the best athletes he's probably got is Mitchell Wilson being there.
Mitchell Wilson. He was treating Mitchell
Just
right
now,
now.
Yeah, I just left Mitchell.
That's why Mitchell's strong right now.
Tell us a story about Mitchell, just for something funny, because you were telling us off air that you were doing something with him with his hip, right?
Oh, yeah. I was working on his left hip, and man, Mitchell just acts like a little baby sometimes when too much pressure is applied. No, but he's a tough guy. He's
a good start.
What were you doing?
So what we did, he's having some restriction in the left hip. So what we did was a soft tissue technique to help reset all the muscle receptors. Okay. But the thing is, when you do that, it's super painful. So, the moment we touched his hip, he was definitely curling up a little bit.
I remember when I did my hamstring and you were like beating into my hamstring, and I was like, oh
yeah, you're the same thing. You actually had the same response as Mitchell.
It was terrible.
And it's not painful for him, so it's fine.
For him, no. For me, it was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
It hurts.
It's crazy. So the baby Mitchell is getting treated by you. Nice. So why you don't start telling us how you start with this? What motivated you to start on this career?
Yeah. So when I was actually in high school, when I was 16, I got into a car accident. Mm-hmm. And after I got into the car accident, naturally my spine was all messed up. All the doctors were like, oh, so you can't play sports anymore. You can't do this. You can't do that. So we went to couple different doctors, and, they always recommended surgery. So once they recommended surgery at 16, my parents were like, I don't know if that's the right route. So then we I don't know how we actually stumbled upon a chiropractor. We went to one. It wasn't the best experience. So we said, we'll try it again. We went to a different one. It was actually a really good experience. And, he treated me for, I think it was maybe a year and a half. And after the treatment, I started feeling really good, back to sports, back to playing, back to normal lifestyle. So I thought about it, and I was like, man, there's definitely something to this. So I was like, this is the way I felt so at 16 years old, scared, crap, I can't play sports anymore. I can't be athletic. I can't do anything. And this guy fixed me. I was like, I want to make people feel the way he made me feel. Yeah. So naturally, I just gravitated right towards it.
You see how it's funny that because we had a special guest as well, Audimar, chiropractor.
Yeah.
She was saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
She got injury, and she did 2 treatments. And the second one, she was feeling way better.
Yeah.
And this pops up the thing about doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Helping more people to.
Right. And that's the really cool thing about chiropractic. So when you meet a chiropractor, almost all of them, so you meet other specialties, you meet an engineer, you meet this kind of person, they're like, oh, I just knew it was a good career. Almost all chiropractors you're going to meet, they're going to have some story, some origin story, and it's going to be something related to themselves or their family, and it changed their lives. So most chiropractors you see, they're going to be filled with passion because they're impacted by themselves. That's why they do what they do.
Yeah, and, to start, one question: what makes you be different than just a regular chiropractor? What do you do that you would say, okay, so we are different? you know.
Okay, so
we complement probably.
one of the big things that sets us apart from a lot of the people around us is naturally in our office, we're focusing on more chronic pain issues, chronic issues. So most people who come to see me, they have already exhausted all options. They've been to other chiropractors, they've been to orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons, they've done pain management, nothing has worked for them. They end up with us. And then when they see us, what we do is we have a very specialized program that we created. It's called the 360 way. Okay. Now in the 360 way, it's a step-by-step process where we identify the issue, we correct the actual mechanics that led to this problem that you have. And then once we correct the mechanics, then we superimpose a very customized physical therapy program on top of that really improve mobility and strength. And then from there, we work heavily on the strength aspect, and we tie everything together. So when we adjust, it's not like it's a general adjustment. We're popping things just to get a sound. It's always going to be based on the motion of the x-rays, and I only will treat based on your mechanics.
Yeah, this is interesting. This called 360.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw on Instagram. What is your Instagram, by the way, if people want to
So
follow
the
you?
Instagram, the handle is Adjusted Lifestyle.
Adjusted lifestyle.
Yeah. So the idea behind that is we want everyone to achieve an adjusted lifestyle, meaning they get to adjust back into the way the life's supposed to be, not hindered by any kind of pain, not hindered by any kind of issues in their body, just adjust back to normal.
So question for you, because we were talking again off air about this, but you mentioned about pain points. So if I have pain in my hip, does that mean there's something actually wrong with my hip, or is it some other part that's like what brings pain to a certain spot?
Okay, so that's a good question, right? So when we talk about pain in the hip, that's such a broad thing, right? So like, I'm going to talk on like from my perspective what I see in my office. Now, when someone comes in with pain in the hip to my office, that means they already saw an orthopedic surgeon, they already saw a chiropractor, they already had a massage, they've done everything they can do to work on the hip itself. So when they come into us, we don't expect to do magic. So we're not going to magic touch your hip and now all of a sudden that hip is better. So what we do is we take a look at the actual mechanics and the biomechanical chain, what they call it, from ankles all the way up to their neck. And we're going to find where you have the deficiencies. And a lot of times what we see is the pain, unless it's from an acute injury, like an actual blow to the hip, most likely the reason why you had that pain, it stemmed from somewhere else. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify that somewhere else and then treat that area, in turn, making the hip better.
Yeah, because like I suffer, I still do sometimes, but from patella tendonitis.
Yeah.
And what I found out was the reason why I was getting the pain in my knee was my hip was pulling the quad wrong, the quad was pulling the kneecap wrong, the kneecap was pulling the tendon wrong, and I was getting a bunch of inflammation and stuff right there.
Exactly. Yeah. So, the natural way of people treating it, like, oh, I have hip, let's shoot an injection in the hip or treat the hip. But the thing is with that, you'll definitely kill the pain, but it's going to be a recurring problem. So when we treat our people, what we want to do is not only get rid of the pain, but make sure it's not a consistent issue down the road for them.
We're trying to solve the problem.
Exactly.
Not just temporary.
That's why the 360, it's not just the pain, just the...
Exactly.
I used to climb like probably 15 years ago. I'm getting old, my goodness. So, and I have a big injury in my shoulder.
Yes.
So this is why we were talking here before the show started, like, how important is stretching? Yeah, like stretching is very important.
So,
when you're young, like 16, that you got hurt, it's hard. Everybody say stretch, warm up, and I never did that.
So one of the biggest things that we see, especially with younger athletes, is they get these issues because the muscles become so tight. When these muscles become tight and you go to use the muscles, now you have to exert more energy in that particular muscle because it's already in a shortened position. Yeah. So the idea is if you can stretch, increase mobility, all you're going to do is protect that joint for longer.
Yeah. So this is the advice. I was about to ask you, what is the advice to prevent injury?
So preventing injury, again, stretch. The number one thing you can do to prevent injury is you're going to stretch, you're going to warm up, and you're going to stay hydrated.
That's
Hydration.
it.
Yes.
So when I do this, means that we need to clip because this is a good information for everybody that is watching us.
Talking about stretching, when should you stretch?
So you're going to want to do different stretches, right? So this is a good question.
Yeah. How about an athlete?
So an athlete. So you before and after workout, easy starting point. So always stretch there. And then before you get to any big game, you're going to want to have some mild form of stretching. That's static, meaning like you're going to hold the position for a long time, but very mild. And then you're going to want to go into more dynamic stretching where you're actually forcing blood flow into that particular area.
Yeah.
So, but like time frame, is it like an hour before the game? Is it 30 minutes? Is it 4 hours?
So with my athletes, what I like to do is literally an hour before, you go through a little bit of a warm up. So you never want to stretch cold muscles. So you're not going to wake up and go right into your stretch. So you don't wake up, go straight to your game, stretch, and then go play.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to cause injury. So what you're going to do is you're going to maybe an hour, 2 hours before the game, you're going to get really loose. You're going to stretch a little bit. And then right before the game, you're going to start with a little bit more dynamic stretching, get the joints and everything mobilized.
For how long we should stretch?
So that's going to be a different question. So how tight are you, right? Like, are you
Very tight. I to be honest, I can disclosure something here, very personal. I never hit I never were capable to hold my feet. Never.
Touch
my
his
whole
toes.
life. Yeah.
That's a bad thing.
So how can I do I still have the condition to hit my,
You're
to
dead,
hold
bro.
my,
You're dead.
I'm dead.
You're
I
done.
never.
Yeah.
Even when I was
It's time to throw
pro
a towel.
climber. I mean, one of my dreams is that to be capable to hold my feet. How
Really?
can I do that? How long? How many minutes a day? There's no magic.
5 minutes. There's no magic number. So you're going to
No
see what
magic
works
number.
for you. And as an athlete, you're going to realize very quickly the things that work for you and the things that don't work for you. So everybody's body is so different.
Yeah.
You can't put everything under a general blanket. So what you works for you might not work for me. But as a good
Have you ever
starting point,
touched your feet?
I have.
How-
Not
what
lately.
is the sensation?
lately.
Not lately, but I
It's
have. I mean, once you can do it, it's not a problem. But I mean, the first time I was like,
what
oh,
do you feel? What do you feel when you?
feel good. I can feel my toes.
My goodness, I want to feel that. Have you ever touched Siusito Yor? Oh, of course. Let's see live. Oh yeah.
I'm sure you got to come by. I'm sure we can get you to do that.
I will. Definitely.
They're gonna push you like this, and it's
This is good. I will never walk anymore.
gonna need a wheelchair.
Oh my goodness.
I do want to try and move, and we can come back to like general work, but I kind of want to move into the pro side.
Yes.
A little bit, just because I think for the audience that we have, I think it'd be really beneficial. So, you talked again off air, a lot of different things, but one thing you talked about was visualization.
Yes.
And how does it impact, or why is that important for people that play and?
So just in general, right? If you can see it, they say you can achieve it, right? If it's never in your brain first, it's never going to happen, no matter what, right? So one of the things we do with our athletes, especially on the elite level, is we'll go through training. And I think we spoke off air as well, that, when you train these elite athletes, they're all amazing. You're not going to find one that sucks. They made it to that level for a reason. And what I feel separates, the distinguished few from the others is going to be mentality. A lot of them truly believe it. They close their eyes and they visualize what exactly their outcome is going to be. So when they do any particular game, any particular movement, any particular training session, it becomes much more intentional. It's not just I'm going through the motions because I got to get this training in. The moment it becomes intentional and you can see it, now there's an end goal in place. And your brain is naturally always going to shift you towards what your end goal is. Now, if you have no end goal, you're going to go out there, you can be the best talent in the world, but you're going to be running around aimlessly, right? But once you can see it, and once you can, and then when I say see it, you actually have to work at this. So when you look at your brain is just like any other muscle. If you want to be faster, you got to work on sprints. You want to be stronger, get big biceps, you got to work on curls. If you want to get better at visualizing, you have to work on visualization. So what we do with our athletes is after our training session, we'll literally, sit there for 10 minutes and actually have some kind of positive visualization so they can see what the goal is they're trying to reach. And then when they always go out, it's very rare that they don't perform.
Yeah, they have the goals. They have the goals in their,
So I really like that last segment you just said of it's very rare that they don't perform. So when you're visualizing it, or you're working on that process, the player then can hopefully just implement. Right?
Exactly.
That's the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the way the brain works is you have these neurons, right? And these neurons are wired to fire a certain way. Now a neuron cannot fire a way that it's not very exposed to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can't just go onto the field and say all of a sudden you're going to be the best, but you've never seen yourself as the best. Your brain doesn't even know how to comprehend that. So you have to be able to visualize it, and when you visualize it, it has to be crystal clear, right? So like I don't work heavily with soccer players, but let's say we're taking soccer for an example. If you're to visualize, winning a cup that you guys are in a tournament with, right? Your kids should be able to close their eyes and see themselves walking onto the field. They should feel the jitters that they feel when they walk onto the field. They should feel under their feet, man, this part of the turf is a little high. You know, they should smell in their brain what exactly the field would typically smell like. It comes down to the minor details. When they kick the ball, how does it feel on the ankle, on the shin, on the knee? All the stuff they should feel like deep inside. Yeah. And when you feel it, so the more descriptive you can be with your visualization, the clear connection your brain is going to have to
feeling it.
Yes. So visualization is not just I closed my eyes and I thought about, I'm driving a Lamborghini. You know, like let's say you want to drive a Lamborghini and you're going to visualize it. You're not closing and thinking of Lamborghini. You're thinking about what color is the Lamborghini. Yeah. You're thinking about when you pull the handle, what does it feel like on your tip? Yeah. When you put your hand on the steering wheel, how fat is it? How skinny is it? Like you're thinking so in detail. Same with the professional athletes. Like they can literally smell their sweat just by visualizing.
Man. And you do that kind of work with them as well.
So I'm not by any means trained specifically in that. Okay. But because it becomes such an important facet of the game, we definitely incorporate that into our training.
For like how long in a day you do that kind of
So with the athletes, we will finish 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes. But again, the more you train on it, the more crystal clear you get on it. Yeah. Just like you guys see when you have a brand new kid and you can teach him how to juggle, right? Mm-hmm. In 10 minutes, he might get one juggle. In 10 minutes, 2 weeks later, he might get 10 juggles. He's doing it for 2 years. Now he's at 100, 200 juggles in 10 minutes, 500 juggles. So same thing, the brain works, right? The more you do it, the repetition, the more clear it's going to become. And again, now keep in mind, visualization is a big part, but it's not like something.
Small part.
It's a small part. It's nothing you can just put out there, right? Well, actually, to be honest with you, I say it's a big part, right? But you have to back up the visualization. So you can't, so you can't just train on thinking you're the best, but people are outworking you in training. Yeah. Then you have a discrepancy in your thought process, and your brain's going to clash, and you're going to perform even worse. Right, so it can be used against you as well.
So you can't be lazy, guys. Even if you think you're the best and you're visualizing it, you cannot be lazy.
I was checking meta media with the eyes closed right there. Siozito thinking and becoming a read. It's not just that. You got to work as well.
Yo, the work has to back it up. And it's funny thing is, as you practice visualization and you practice to be the best, I mean, you visualize you're the best, but your work ethic is not the best, you're never going to visualize as clear as you think you can. Yep. But once your work backs it up, the visualization becomes much easier.
We never thought about that, huh?
That's different.
In a game.
But so when you talk about visualization, should you do it in first person, like you're in there, or do you want to look at yourself from a third person? You're watching yourself kind of go through it.
No. It's always going to be first person. You got to feel it as it's you, as it's happening. Remember, your brain can't decipher what it perceives, like what's actual reality versus what's not. It's just what's in front of you, right? So if you actually think this is what's happening, your brain thinks this is what's happening, and it's always going to move you towards that.
So let's imagine, for example, we have a final. Our team went to the final. Yeah. Should we stop there and say, let's
sit down for 5 minutes?
Or is always before a big tournament? So what do you recommend?
So in that case, it would have to be before the morning of. Right? Like, you're not going to call a timeout and visualize. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to work.
Before the game, you mean?
Before the game, right? Okay. Before warm-ups even start.
Okay.
Right? Take a second. Now, with youth games, it's going to be very hard because, one, the kids' attention spans are not very there. So what I would do is give them homework. Before you guys go to sleep, I want you to just picture it as clear as can be. As soon as you wake up in the morning, give yourself 2 minutes to picture it, right? And once you start picturing it before bed and when you wake up, now when you get there, it'll be a lot easier.
And I was trying to do that. To be honest, I downloaded an app, I forgot the name, to try to relax a little bit more. I forgot the name. It's orange. Yeah, it's that one. And the first day, the thing was like, okay, breathe for 1 minute.
Yeah.
To be honest, I couldn't. I couldn't breathe for 1 minute. And this is an important thing.
So how are you alive? You didn't...
I mean, I deleted the app. I deleted the app. I was like, my goodness. The second thing was I did a yoga one time.
Yeah.
A few years ago. And the first... you can clip that. The first exercise.
Oh, shit. Doggy.
The first exercise. This is very hard to do it. It's not easy at all.
You did downward dog.
No, the lady was like, okay, close your eyes. For me to close my eyes is already a big challenge. So close your eyes, breathe for a minute. And for me, it was terrible already. And she was like, now visualize a tree in your stomach. I'm like, done. I'm done. And I stopped because I was like, it's hard.
Yeah, no,
it's not easy.
Again, it's one of those things that you have to practice at. You can't just say, it's just like any other sport, just anything in life. No one is going to just wake up and just be amazing at anything.
You need a coach.
Yes.
To teach you the first couple of times, then you can.
Exactly.
But to be honest, I install again the app and I'm trying because this is my deficient. I'm working on that. It's very important.
So, and you mentioned that if you can do this successfully, it usually helps lead to good performance.
Absolutely.
Now, it could be youth or a pro. What could cause poor performance? What, from your experience?
So, in my experience, when you have an athlete, elite athlete, and they're performing poorly, we already know they're pro. So that means their skill is there. It's almost always a mental block. Again, the thing is, it always comes back to your mentality, especially at an elite level, and especially if you're a kid and you aspire to become elite. You still have to put the training in, put the hard work in, but you have to understand your body is capable of way more than you can even perceive, right? And your brain is so strong and powerful. You have to be able to nourish that properly.
Mentality. It's always about mentality. So how you define elite player, elite athlete? How you define that? How you know that this guy is elite?
So to be honest with you, my description of elite is very loose. You make it pro, you're elite. Right?
Yeah.
And then within the pro atmosphere, then you're going to have different levels.
Yeah.
And I think, once again, it'll come back to mentality. When you make it to the pro level, clearly your skill is there. You beat out how many, I don't know what the odds are to become a professional soccer player, right? So you beat out billions of people to get that role. You're good. Yeah. So it now comes back to mentality once again.
Yeah.
So is there a chance you give an example of somebody that, again, you have to use a name, but somebody that had a poor performance, and could you give a cause like, okay, he suffered from bang, or this person suffered? Is that something you can do?
Something. So we had an athlete years ago that he wasn't being able to he couldn't produce the way he normally did, without giving away the name of the athlete or the sport. He couldn't produce the way he wanted to. Turns out when we're talking to him, he had a really bad game. It's one of those, you can't be on 100% of the time. Yeah. Nobody can. He happened to have a bad game, and for whatever reason, that stuck in him, and that gave him the mental block. So all we did is we trained like normal, but then we figured out what the problem was. He had a bad game, whether he missed a catch or somebody was a half step in front of him that he's faster than. And for whatever reason, that always caused him to be a little bit apprehensive. And as you start playing apprehensive, as you guys know.
Confidence.
Exactly. So once we were able to reestablish that confidence back into him, and with that one, it was almost all positive visualization. Once we're able to reestablish that back into him, next thing you know, he's back on like nothing happened.
I was going to say, because you see that with kids all the time where they're in a game, again, using soccer, and they give a bad pass. Yes. And then the rest of the game, they're done.
Yeah, they're terrified to make another big mistake. And, of course, that's going to hinder them. And if they go home with that, now it's gonna harbor, right? And it's going to build. And the thing is with confidence, it's like a compounding effect. It can either drown you or it can skyrocket you.
We had a player that we're not going to mention a name, that we did a meeting last week with a parent, that she literally said, like, my kid always go to the field with no confidence.
Yes.
At all. So if you can say something for him, he will perform really good. And this happened last game. I will not mention the name, but I was saying, like, we on the sideline was like, you're doing good. You do really good pass. The kid got way better. It's crazy how your brain can control your performance.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Well, it's interesting, too, because you'll see parents and how do I phrase this? Like, kids in practice can be really, really good.
Yes.
Practice. And then when they come to the game, blinders are on, they don't play well, and then the parent, I think for a parent perspective, they can't always translate that. How do I put this? It's like they think it's
lack of training.
And it's not a mental.
Yeah. And again, this happens on every level. Kids, pros. Like, you look at Super Bowl. You have an all-star player, and all of a sudden he doesn't perform in the Super Bowl. You have they just had a NBA playoff game. They went to Game 7. right? So much pressure on you.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, these superstars are not performing the way that they typically perform throughout the entire season, right? But are they all of a sudden not good anymore? No. It's the pressure. When the lights are on, when the eyes are on you, you can't be as loose, you can't be as free. No. And then that's going to...
It's like you said, like when you have pressure, I really agree with that. Like I already told Kai about that, and we grew a lot when we had the pressure on us. Like for example, COVID. COVID hit us. What we did, we created high soccer prospects in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
It was really good. So one of the other thing was COVID hit for example, high soccer arena was a lot of rents to pay.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, we're not going to help you with the rent. You should hurry up. So that makes me work more to pay him off.
Yeah.
So I think the pressure helps if you know how to deal with.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can definitely.
So when it comes to coaching, like I'm not a coach, obviously, but then what you got to do is really identify what drives. So people are either going to work harder with pleasure or with pain. Those are going to be your two pushers in life. Some people really want the pleasure. Some people are afraid of the pain. You have to figure out which one kind of person that is.
For each player, what trigger?
Exactly.
Eso es.
Now,
really good.
Do you have any advice, like when you know the stakes are high? So it could be youth, but let's say Game 7.
Yeah.
Right, so 3-3, you got to win Game 7. Do you have any advice for, again, thinking about kids that want to deal with that type of pressure in their future, or they got a tournament final coming up? Is there any advice you could give them to like mentally prepare, be ready for that?
To visualize that. Yeah.
So for one, the visualization.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then two, they have to always believe in the process. Right? They got to buy into the big picture. Once they buy into the big picture, then they're going to rely on their training. And then that's how you
makes sense, yeah.
Especially when it comes to Game 7, high pressure things, you have to know you already positively visualize, you're hyped up, the nerves are there, but you have to fall back into what you trained and be confident in the training was adequate and you're going to go out and perform.
Really good.
Yes.
It's a good advice.
One of the things that I really love, and this is not mine at all, right? But they always tell you in tough situations, you got to rise to the occasion. You got to rise to the occasion. Now, I forget who I heard this from, because it's definitely not mine at all, right? Yeah. But they say an athlete or a person typically never rises to the occasion. They actually fall to the highest level of preparation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if your level of prepreparation is extremely high, you're not rising to the occasion. You're going to fall back to your highest level of preparation, and that's where you want to be. And that's where you want to be.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, most of the thing is mentality. Yeah.
Yes.
Mentality.
Yes.
But I think this exercise about visualizing is something that.
So, question though. So, like, when it comes down to performance, so like you need to play in a game, whether you're a kid, pro athlete, whatever.
Yes.
Whose responsibility is that to perform? Is it the coach, the player? Who does it come down to?
It's a question for you. Yeah.
so
don't tell that it's a coach.
Oh man. So I mean, for individuals, it's always going to be you got to take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So the coach, and again, I'm not a coach, and my specialty is biomechanics. So this is just me speaking on my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. But when I see these players play, they're going out there and they're doing it for themselves, to prove to themselves they can do it. Mm-hmm. They're going out there to prove to their families they can do it. And they're going out there, if they're professional, to give their fans what the fans expect. Yeah. It never falls back on the coach, right? It's always the coach is there to set the plan up. All you have to do is execute the plan that the coach set. Now, if you fail in execution, does it mean it's a bad plan? No, it just means you failed in execution. Yeah. So you got to take responsibility for yourself.
Boom.
Let's clip that, okay?
And the reason why I asked that question is because I've had parents, not necessarily with my group, but just in general say, I feel like it's the coach's responsibility to make the kid play well. And I'm like, well, I do agree that the coach does have a role in helping. Yeah. But the child, the player, has to be like, okay, I'm showing up today.
Yeah. So, like, I'm not around on the sideline, so I just treat behind the scenes. The only couple times I've actually seen quite like amazing kids play. One of my cousins, he coaches in Toronto, right? And they end up coming here and they won this futsal. They beat like Brazil and all this in futsal, right?
Opa, Brazil.
Yeah, like they
Let me Google that.
They were really younger kids. They're really good, and like I grew up with my cousin, so like we knew everyone was always scared of him, right? And he's really good at sports. And the thing is, when he coached these kids, all he did was walk up and down the sideline with his hands behind his back. I almost didn't hear him say a word. Yeah. And I was like, you're not really doing anything. He's like, but he knows in training.
He did it before.
He did it already.
Yeah.
And these kids know the plan. They went out, they executed, they won. Right? So it's not necessarily the coach has to be yelling every single time, oh, you need to get back. You need to, a lot of times these kids know their assignment. Now with the little kids, it helps to have that encouragement, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, you got to take responsibility for yourself. And I think it's good for the at a young age for the kids to understand that, especially if they want to go pro. You're not always going to have a babysitter telling you exactly what to do. You're going to have the tactical skills, and you're going to have the advice pre-game. You're going to look at all the film, so you should know how to anticipate.
Follow the plan.
Yeah, but I think part of this, I think looking as a business owner perspective, the parents see that the coach is doing a great job when they're winning. No, and also when they are yelling on the field.
Yeah.
So if the coach is quiet like that, definitely they're going to complain. But
unless you're winning.
Yeah, but even winning, I'm going to tell you that they're going to say, hey, what is the energy? But it's like you said, if they are executing the plan, it's fine. Yeah. If they are doing a good job. But the parents always expect, I'm not saying in general, it's just a small percentage in my opinion, but they always expect the coach to be screaming,
problem solver for the kid.
Yeah.
Yes. And sometimes that's a good thing, right? Some kids need that, right? And you guys are not drafting people, so it's people from all over coming in. Yeah. So some kids are actually going to need that. And then some kids, you can see how good they're going to be. I think it's good. Let them fail. Let them figure it out. You're not going to get better if you don't fail.
Sometimes it can be worse. If you're yelling at a kid that is not mentally prepared.
Right.
And
then talk about confidence again. Yeah. Now he's scared. I don't want Coach Kyle to yell at me, so I'm not going to kick the ball anymore.
I'm not going to touch the ball. Yeah, this is a good point.
Yeah, so
I'm not going to touch. I'm going to release as soon as I receive the ball.
With kids, it's a different type of. You have to really take some time to understand each personnel. Right, and that portion does fall on the coach.
But I think this thing about visualizing is really good. If we can try to implement, hey guys, we're gonna visualize for 5 minutes. I may yell on you, but don't worry, keep worrying. I think is a really good exercise. Yeah, that we should try it.
Yeah, and when you guys try it, a nice little tip is. You can have them visualize, but kids are not going to really understand exactly how to visualize. So you do what's called a guided visualization or guided meditation. So let them think for a second, and then you tell them, okay, now picture this. And you tell them and direct their visualization on where it should go.
Really good. Let's do a break for our advertising, Ciozito.
Vamos.
So here is a podcast Club Neutral. But we wanna say thank you for High Soccer Academy, High Soccer Arena, and High Soccer Prospects for sponsoring this show. That is another sponsor. It's modest that we will go there. We're gonna stop by there.
We're coming.
Yeah, we are coming. Also, Meta Media, Ciozito, you want to put there the Meta Media.
The Power Play podcast is sponsored by Meta Media. Opa, I like that voice. Who does that?
I don't know.
That's good. Nice.
It's a good voice.
Sharp.
Good English.
Yeah. And then, I'm sure you got to have some stories. You gave us one again off air in regards to player performance. Doing testing with oxygen levels. Can you kind of relay in depth what that kind of looked like for everybody?
Now this is, you don't want to get this misconstrued that everyone should be doing it, especially in the youth side, right? Yeah. But so when we had our professional athletes and we run them through drills, now we would do a lot of blood tests pre and post workout to see exactly where oxygen. On the blood test, you're seeing enzyme levels and all that kind of stuff. How's the kidney functioning? How's the heart functioning? How's the muscle, the protein breakdown? Right, so we did a lot of that pre and post workout, and then during the workouts, everyone has oxygen monitors on them. So what happens is we would push these athletes way past what they think physically that they're capable of.
What they think.
So the perception is always different, right? Yeah. You may perceive you can push to a certain level, but the reality of it is you still have a lot more to give. Yeah. You just don't feel it, right?
You think that you're going to pass away, but you still can do it.
Is that what the second wind is?
Yes, more or less, right?
What is the saturation? You measure with saturation on the blood?
So the O2 saturation, a lot of times, you drop below 98, 97, now you're getting kind of worried. So we've had athletes that we push so hard and, all other vital signs look pretty good. and the O2 levels are still reading 99, 98, but they're literally throwing up.
Oh my goodness.
Right? So what do? Do you tell them stop, take a break? No, we know all other vitals look good. You need to keep pushing.
Not a problem if they throw away.
Oh no, they wipe their face.
Done.
They're right back into it.
What is the response of the throw up? Why are they vomiting?
Yeah.
A lot of times it's overexertion in the body. Sometimes they get what's called a vasovagal reaction, right? And vasovagal reaction. It's like when the nerves just get overfiring, overstimulated. Your body doesn't know what to do. It gets confused. Boom. You're going to throw up. Right?
It's not actually a problem.
It's not always bad.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, when we did this with the athletes, I'm there. We have other medical doctors that are there. So this is all under heavily medical supervision. This is not like a lay person saying, "Oh
Keep
no,
running.
I think you got more in you."
Just clean it and go.
Because you hear bad stories where people are pushed too far, and it turns out not good at all. So we definitely have medical professionals there monitoring every single step of the way. But when we do it this way, we can push way past. And again, when the athlete sees, man, I thought I was done 50 yards ago, and I didn't know I had another 30, 40 yards in me. Now he knows. So guess what? When he's performing on the field and he thinks he's done, he still has another 30, 40 yards. And he'd already seen it. He already experienced it. So now he's gone.
His mentality again. I mean, I have a lot of examples. Today, I was in the gym. And I'm trying to do sauna because I saw the little sign saying that it's good for circulation. We lose some weight just sitting there. And it's amazing. Yeah. So every time that I go there and I put my clock like 10 minutes, on the 9, my brain already starts saying like, you gotta go. I start being like desperate to leave the room.
Yeah.
So today, for example, I was like, I'm not gonna put the clock. And I did 20 minutes.
See?
It's crazy how the brain can control your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when it comes to sports performance, this is one of the things that I don't think as little kids they look at enough. On the pro level, you talk about this. This is a common thing. Every single person's doing this. But I don't know why on the youth they're not doing it more. So it's something you guys can implement.
I mean,
like mental training.
Yeah.
I don't know any club that does that. To be honest,
what can you give some examples of things that maybe we could do at home? Kids could do at home, or coaches could do with their kids.
As far as like mental,
yeah.
Again, just a visualization. Let the kid understand and feel that they've achieved what they want to achieve. And it can be intermediate goals, right? You can have this nice short-term goal, right? I want to get 5 juggles. I see myself getting 5 juggles. In 2 years, I see myself getting called up to a higher, division. See and feel what that feels like. So have a little small goal and then have a little loftier goal. Like you're not going to be 9-year-olds and visualize yourself in the World Cup final, right? Like that, that's not a bad thing, but you want to definitely do things initially that's achievable. And the idea is momentum. You visualize a small goal that you can achieve. You achieve it. You're like, oh, that feels great. Yeah. Right. Then you do another small goal.
It's like a deja vu.
Yeah. And you keep building on that and keep building on that. And then all of a sudden your goals get loftier. Your work ethic gets heavier and you're going to close that gap.
I mean, for business owner, again, another example. I was feeling that 7 years ago when this guy, Ciosito, you used to be my player. Yeah. And I used to coach like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was dreaming about opening an indoor facility.
Yes.
I was dreaming about that. I didn't have this exercise in mind. Like, let me visualize arena. I can feel arena. No.
Right.
But I was dreaming about that. But this is a good exercise.
Yeah. So even if you think about it, not necessarily in a very uniform way, like sit down and think about it, but you just pictured it. Right? Like you thought about it. I want to open indoor arena. So what happens is now you have the part of your brain called the RAS, right? So the RAS is the
not IRS, guys. Not IRS. It's a tax season. It's a tax season right now. It's not IRS. It's what?
So the RAS. So you have called the reticular activating system, right? Okay. So what the reticular activating system is going to do is literally what it does. It helps to drown out all the noise and keep you directed. The reason right now you only focus on what we're focusing on is the RAS, like a filter system. So now that you thought about you want to open indoor soccer, that's in the RAS. Now all your thoughts are going to lead, and you're going to see things in a different perspective. That's going to lead you to open this what you already did.
And automatically you can dream with that. It's automatically.
Yeah.
So this is good because one of the business guys, one of the huge constructor came here. He was like, do a list what you want on a year.
Yes.
So with this list, you can visualize that.
Absolutely.
We can apply
so,
this
and then when
for-
you, and the funny thing is too is that with business owners, when you look at a business owner and you look at the training for athletes, it's very, very
Yeah.
overlapping. You know, everything I just said that you can apply to the elite athlete, to the child athlete, you can apply that exact same advice to any business owner and any business in order to grow.
So do you also have in your office business owners
Yes.
that wants to improve that part, like the mentality or no?
Yeah. So I don't necessarily work with business owners to improve mentality.
Yeah.
There's so many other groups that can do that. Way more effective than I do. But like part of our business is we do like so we have the chiropractic 360 physical medicine where we treat the chronic care. We have some of the consulting stuff that we do, and one aspect of consulting is with small businesses.
Like, for example, if you see the CEO of a big company and you see that this guy's, the mentality needs to work a lot,
Yeah.
you tell him, you say, hey, it's better you look for someone because it's hard. How you say that for a person? Like,
That's a tough one, right? So if he's a big CEO of a big company and he's already achieved, what I'm still
Hey, you
dreaming
suck.
about,
You need to get better.
right? Then
Your mentality is
I'll
tough.
hold my tongue and then.
if it's a new CEO, like he's starting the thing, it's crazy. Huh?
Yeah.
How you gonna
But again,
say?
nowadays with entrepreneurship is kind of like a new fad, right? It's like a new cool thing to do. So everyone wants to run a business, own a business.
Yeah.
So there's so many groups catered to helping the mentality of those kind of people.
Yeah. Yeah. This is it's a good exercise. I
Definitely
think
good
it's-
question.
Yeah.
Good question. You can
Yeah.
always improve mentality.
But definitely, even in an office, we do this in my office, and we run our office like a sports team, right? Like things that we do every single day, how to answer a phone, how to do simple things. We still train on how to do all this stuff. Like when you come into my office, nothing that we ever do is by accident. Every single thing
Pre-planned.
we pre-plan it and we train on it.
So you say don't rise to the occasion. You go back to what you're prepared for.
Exactly.
It's interesting.
Fall to highest level of preparation.
Yeah, I like that.
So
Rise.
next meeting, we're gonna do a visualization exercise.
Why not? We might as well.
Yeah, to talk
But
about numbers. Everything.
again, talking about mentality, you mentioned this earlier. Kind of where the brain can achieve more than what the body's willing to give you. And can you kind
Absolutely.
of expand on that and what that means?
Man, it's just it's one of those things where people always put this limiting belief that they have in
Because
them.
they feel tired.
They feel tired. They feel like they can't push more. But in the reality of it, like we were talking off camera as well, that like you may think you can only swim 100 yards. I guarantee if a shark's behind you, you're swimming an extra 100 to get to safety, right? So you can always push more than you think you can push.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a given.
Always, yeah.
Yeah.
Because basically, your body's going to tell you, "Hey, I'm tired."
Yes.
But it's your mind overriding that or powering through that. Say you are okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, that comes with training the mind, right? You're not going to randomly say, I'm tired, and your mind's going to automatically say, no, you're not, keep going,
Yeah.
right? You have to train your mind to be stronger and to understand what your capacity is. And your capacity is always far more than what you think it is.
Yeah. And do you guys know a lot about Navy SEAL training by chance or no?
I just hear stories.
Yeah, I was gonna say apparently there's only again same type of thing. There's 1% of people that make it.
Yes.
And it's the mentality you need to have to pass through is
Yes.
stupid.
Yes.
I don't know if you know that we have the immigration lawyer here. One of the ways that you can get a green card is going to the Navy or as for arm.
Yeah.
And I checked the checklist on a website to become a Navy or Army, and I was like, I will give up. I'm not gonna do that. to do this is why I decide to do the entrepreneur part, because there's people that come right here, like from different countries, and they need to do a registration on the Army website. But it's crazy. I saw some trains. My brother-in-law is from Marine Corps, and he tells me there's a lot of histories that is really crazy. They work a lot with the mentality.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And then kind of segmenting back towards general public, can you kind of give a highlight between what's the difference between like the 1% of athletes or the guys that make it as pro and a general person? You understand what I'm saying? Like an amateur player.
So it's going to be multifactorial, right? So one is going to be, obviously, we've been discussing in depth, is going to be the mentality.
Yeah.
Who's willing to push past what, they perceive as their physical barrier, right?
You think mentality is more important than probably the skill level? I don't know if I can ask you that.
That's a good
What do
question.
you think?
So you can't I think it goes hand in hand, right?
50-50.
Not 50-50. I don't know the percentages.
I'm trying, guys, to figure out.
But you got to think about this, right? You can have a really skilled player
Yeah.
that doesn't want to push.
Correct.
Or doesn't play well.
Yeah. Is he going to make it? Probably not. Right? And if he does make it, he's going to get weeded out very quickly.
Yeah.
Right? Because some guys are very skilled and they lack that mental oomph, and they finesse their way all the way up.
Yeah.
But right before the kickoff in football, we see they get released. Right? Because they just didn't have that mental. And they have some guys who may not be the best skilled, but they're going to make up for it because of how hard they're going to push.
Yeah.
And not only, remember, this kind of stuff sometimes is contagious, right? So you got a guy who's not the best skilled, and his work ethic is ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's going to pull guys along who are incredibly skilled, and like, I can't get outworked by this guy, and they're going to work harder. Now you have an incredibly skilled player, working crazy hard.
Yeah.
That guy who's not that skilled becomes super valuable to the organization. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, we have some players here. We know some players, pro players, that's a mentality way better than the skill level. Like it's definitely it's very important to have both. So let's say 50-50.
Yeah, it's a good balance. It's a good balance, right? And then also too, again, mentality is great, but you cannot negate work ethic as well, right? So another dangerous thing is the guy who has a great mentality, who thinks he's the best, he's the best. He goes on the field, he acts like he's the best, but clearly his skill and his work ethic doesn't match it. Then he just becomes a jerk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
what is the definition of work ethic, in your opinion?
So, work ethic, I think depending on, you have to be realistic on where your goals are, and your work ethic has to match your goals. Some kids want to come in and they know for sure they want to be a lawyer, but they love playing soccer, but they want to be a lawyer. You know what I mean? They're going to work to a certain level because they're a hard worker. Now they have another kid who he has no plan B, right? He's going pro soccer. They may both have good work ethics in their own right, but your work ethic also has to be correlated and match your goal. So the guy who wants to be a lawyer, he can't practice 24/7 because he still needs to get into law school, right?
Yep.
But the guy but he wants to come out and give his best because that's who he is. Now you have the guy who wants to go pro. He needs to practice 24/7 because you're playing against kids all over the world that's probably training harder than you. And a lot of times, especially, I feel like you'll see, and this is completely kind of off topic, right? But like, you have to have that drive in you. You see these kids and they have everything given to them. They don't have the deep desire. They really want it, but then you have someone that comes sometimes from low socioeconomic or a rough part of their life, and soccer's their only way out.
Yep.
Who's gonna want? You see with fighters all the time. Look at, they say, Conor McGregor. When Conor McGregor was broke, nobody could beat him, right? You give that guy, you got that big fight with Floyd. He's all of a sudden made for the rest of his life. He doesn't have that edge. Yeah. The way that he's
comfortable now.
He can say he has the edge, but deep down, if he loses that fight, is he going back to welfare? No.
He's
but
good.
that guy who's coming up, who's going to go back to welfare, he wants to be where Conor is. He's going to have something deeper inside that's going to push.
You think being wealthy affect your performance, or you think the privileges?
I think it could play a factor in how deep your desire is, but I don't think necessarily. I think, a long time ago, kids used to train where, in their backyard. That's the only train they had, and now they're pro. Nowadays, it's a little different because now you have a lot of money. Now you have a strength and conditioning coach. You have a personal massage therapist. You have, a speed coach. Like, you have so many different coaches if you're wealthy.
It's crazy,
so
because why I mentioned that, because we have a lot of kids in our program, but we have, I cannot mention company names and anything, but we have some underprivileged kids that every time that we see, for example, 10, 15 kids underprivileged, one is good.
Yeah.
And we always say, hey, can he train with us? No, because he needs to go. But it's crazy. In a range of 10 kids, one is good.
And then if you see 10 well-off kids, how many are good?
Kyle, it's hard.
I can't answer that.
For example, on the recreational part that we have after school program, we probably have 100 kids. Let's say from 100, one is good.
Wow.
In a rec. I'm saying just the after school.
But I also think good, to define good, they have to have everything. And that includes mentality. You can't just have the skill, but when you play or when it comes to whatever you're doing, you need to do it well.
Right.
And perform. And that's what a lot of people, I think, get lost in translation. Like, you can have all this skill, and you said it, but when it comes time to perform, you need to perform.
And I think something that you mentioned, like, if you have a plan B, you have a way. Yeah. If the plan A fails, you have a way out.
Right.
So those kids, they born with this in their mind, like, soccer player can change my family life, can change my life, so I gotta focus on that.
Yeah.
So I think having a plan B, in my opinion, can hurt a little bit your performance on the plan A.
Well, absolutely, right? Because your mentality is now split, right? And once it starts splitting, your focus starts splitting.
Yeah.
Then you can't give it 100% because 20% is reserved for plan B.
Yeah.
Right? I also think, like, for me, my parents always said, okay, you can try and be a pro, but make sure you still take care of school. Because if this doesn't work, you have this. So in your mind, you're going, okay, it's okay if I don't get this because I have this.
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah. And like, when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's such a double-edged sword too, right? Because again, the just by the mathematics of it, not every kid's going to go pro. So let's say you have no plan B and you give it your all. That doesn't mean
it's a break.
You're going to get it.
Yeah.
Right? So, as parents, you still want to make sure your kid's going to be okay as well.
It's hard. I mean, like you said, it's a hard balance because not many people are going to make it, but probably statistically, it's the guys that don't have the plan B that will.
Yes.
That means a lot of people that still have that only plan A still fail.
Oh, believe me, I treat a lot of people in my office who only had plan A to go pro. They're not pro at all, right? And they had a tough time. Some of them got lucky breaks and just naturally end up doing well because they're hustlers and very hard work ethic. But it is tough. It's tough to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah,
it's really crazy. I get it. So I mean, again, another example. People ask me, Thiago, how you, for example, with a document, how you make it happen? I just had the plan A.
Yes.
So my plan B was come back into my country.
Okay.
So I want to live right here. I feel like I'm a part of the American, like, I'm not going to come back. So my plan A needs to work.
Yes.
I need to make it happen.
Yes.
So this is part of the mentality that we are talking about.
And it sounds like visualization, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so the cool thing about that is a lot of people, when they only have a plan A, all this visualization stuff that we're talking about, most successful people or people who achieve their goal, they actually do it. They just don't formally know that's what they're doing, right? But when you break it down and take out all the distractions, like, you probably, again, you saw yourself opening indoor soccer. You saw yourself as an American.
Yeah.
Here you are. Now,
thank you. Thank you, Francis Law Firm.
God bless America.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
But you did visualize it, just not formally. But when you break it down, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I mean, I never visualized myself with the plan A or B B no, but with my plan A failing.
Yes.
Never.
Exactly.
I will always visualize myself with the green card, with the company growing.
Right.
So
and look, here you are.
I mean, we are still like at the baby steps, but we are continue growing and very happy with that. Well, I think next visualization will be arena 2 with outdoor field, 4 indoor fields, multi-sport.
It's coming, guys. Stay tuned. Competitors, watch out.
I suppose you don't say anything about the companies, but I can't.
And then question, because I think this will kind of be funny. You mentioned to me, again, off air, that you want to put Mitchell and I through a session.
Yes.
Right, so what does that actually look like? So at least I can try and mentally prepare.
Baby session.
So what I want to do with you guys both, so you can just kind of get a general feel of what we do with some of the pro athletes, is, the typical
We should
treatment.
video this. It'd be funny.
What?
We should video the thing and watch us go through it and stuff.
The typical treatment is, you have pain or you have some kind of issue, they stretch you, then you go play. Or you get hurt, you get treated. What we do is we kind of, without giving away too much exactly what I do, because kind of my technique, is we kind of bounce back and forth between the two in a very systematic way. It hurts and it sucks and it feels like you've been put through hell. But then once you get onto the field, you're like, holy crap, did you just give me a new body?
It's different.
Yeah.
So we should.
I want to be part of this.
Yeah, we should do a whole little thing and just video that and be like, watch.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Marketing.
When.
Win.
Yeah, we
I wanted to do it, but you guys play at midnight, so man.
You guys play at midnight.
With Diego's team.
Oh, yeah.
guys supposed to have a game today at 10.
Yeah, I think he needs to study our coach, Diego Pantuza. He played like probably 2-3 games Saturday, 2-3 games Sunday.
Yeah.
And Monday he's in the silver. He's a totally crazy guy. His body needs to be studied.
Oh, man.
Definitely. But thank you so much. I think you have another question.
I do.
Oh,
This is something I think that people undervalue, especially
Yeah.
again, youth athlete. How important is like core work, balance,
Oh man,
all that fun stuff.
So when you look at
Stretching.
flexibility, like we talk about stretching, working the core, working, you said balance, all these different things. You have, without getting too scientific or anything, like you have all these little tiny intrinsic muscles, and these little tiny intrinsic muscles and ligaments are what's going to protect the spine, protect the joints. So a lot of times people they work out the large muscle groups, negating the smaller muscle groups. If you can, as a kid, work on the small muscle groups, really work on mobilization. Now you're building yourself an extremely solid foundation to prevent injury in the future.
do you recommend the ice tub or something like that for
kids?
No.
No, not necessarily.
What age you think is
16 and older, maybe.
16 and older?
Yeah, you don't really
I
need
see
that.
a lot of young kids.
You don't really need that for recovery at this age. Like, I think the idea is if you can really take care of your body, you eat the right things, you stay hydrated, you do the stretches, you work with someone who knows how to protect the joints. Because, a long time ago, kids were not getting injured quite as much. Athletes were not getting injured quite as much because we had a ton of kids that were doing multiple sports at the same time. When when I was growing up, these kids played soccer, they played baseball, they played football, they cross sports. Right, and when you cross sports,
train different muscles.
Exactly, it prevents you from injury down the road. Nowadays, everybody's so much more specialized because maybe competition is better, availability is easier. I don't know what the case is, but when you only have focus on one sport, you're much more likely to become injured in that sport. Yeah. Right. So now what we need to do is we need to be with someone who can really work on, like you said, balance, core, mobility, to really get the small fine-tuning muscles to work the right way to prevent injury in the future.
Nutrition as well, yeah?
Like eating the Doritos.
Like the Doritos.
What you recommend
The healthy option.
Like, what do you recommend?
That's just tomatoes, right? It's tomatoes
it's
on the
tomato.
chip. Yeah.
I'm visualizing the tomato.
There you
this
go.
helps or no? Tomato.
Oh, God. But
Well,
I'm glad you highlighted this because, again, kids, how important is nutrition? How important is hydration? Because there's kids that we have that they're like, I don't drink water. I only drink juice or I drink Gatorade and Coke.
Yeah. So, if you're not hydrated properly with water, your body is just not going to function well. So even if you're an amazing athlete, right? There you go. Even if you're an amazing athlete, but you're not fueled the right way, you're still going to be amazing, but you're not going to perform.
You can't reach the same level.
Exactly. You're not going to perform at your peak.
Yeah.
And if you have these big, lofty aspirations, why not fuel the right way so you can actually perform at your peak, so you can actually see what your peak is?
Please clip that.
No barbecue. Yeah?
I like how he said, if that's your goal, why would you not do the things to help you?
Right.
It's hard to sacrifice. People give up because they were, I will not sacrifice. There's a barbecue that people don't go if they want to be in a pro level.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you're kids, you still want to have some kind of fun.
Yeah.
But again, you don't have to be 100% on a diet plan as a 10-year-old.
No.
Right? You really don't.
Yeah.
Right? But, you'll start noticing if you start to develop good habits as a kid, now when you start growing into your body and you start seeing your skill and your actual, strength come together and you already have that good habit and then like, oh crap, now I'm actually really good.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have that good habit of eating well and hydrating. It just complements.
It's a roadmap.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you don't want to develop bad habits like, no, but when I get good, then I'll change my eating because then it's too late. Right?
Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Exactly. So you're going to create the good habits as a kid, still have fun, right? But it's setting basically the groundwork, right? All the framework is there.
It's hard to take McDonald's from the kids out for the whole month.
Yeah, but again, I think like learning, teaching them this is the right thing to do, and then if that's their goal, they're going to start hopefully transferring those pieces to their game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the thing is, you have this lofty goal, right? There's so much competition against you as it is. Yep. Why are you competing with yourself on top of that? Like you're eating bad, you only drink soda. Now you're literally competing against yourself. So now you got to compete against everyone else and yourself. Yeah. You know how hard that is?
Yeah, it's killer.
Exactly.
It's killer.
People working.
Now, I do have 2 more questions. I don't know if you got any more, but the one I do have is, and I think a lot of people undervalue this, especially in soccer.
Yeah.
But how important is athleticism to sports in general? Like, can you be a top player, whether it's soccer, football, and not be athletic?
Oh, that's a good question, and the answer is yes. You can be at the top of your game and not be athletic.
Yeah.
You know, so the best example of this. Have you guys seen Tom Brady's combine footage?
No.
So Tom Brady, right? So I forget the number. I think he was drafted last. I heard that entire draft pick. If you look at the video, right? I mean, Kyler Mitchell looked more athletic.
Oh, nice.
Than he does.
Oh,
right? Look, seriously, go on YouTube, type in Tom Brady combine video. It's so unathletic. Look where he is now.
Yeah. But he worked at it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I will also say, does that have something to do with like the time period? Because he's 42, something like that?
Yeah.
So like when he got drafted 20 years ago, was it the game a little bit different?
It was, but if you look at the guys that were in that combine, his drafting class,
more in shape than him.
They were still really good.
Yeah.
And yes, he is 42, and if he is 42 and he's still not the most athletic, he's still the most dominant.
Yeah.
Right? So just by that deduction alone, athleticism doesn't play. It's not an end all be all.
Right. But it adds value.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like you're when you're super athletic, you can get away with a lot of things. Yeah. Right? Yeah. If you're really fast and they catch you sleeping on defense, but now you can get back. Yeah. You get away with that.
Yeah.
The Flash. The Flash. We had the episode was the last episode that we released. Yeah, Meta Media. I think episode 17 with Juan Teixeira, the Orlando City pro player. Yeah. And he's changing the way that people are running on the soccer fields right now. He's very fast.
Boom.
Flash.
And then the last question, again, you mentioned this off air, is you said, and I'm quoting, you can look at somebody and see when they're going to get hurt.
Yeah. So
can you highlight what that actually means?
That's a little bit. So basically what I do, and when we look at, now this is not for kids, right? Because it's different for kids. Because, kids are going to continue to grow into their body. So when you look at an elite athlete, basically my training is all in biomechanics, how the body moves and how one movement relates to a different part of the body. So basically what we do when we look at this, we'll look at x-rays, x-ray with motion, MRI sometimes with motion, CT scans, and then we'll look at hours and hours of film and footage of this particular athlete. And depending on the athlete's movement patterns, we can, what I've been very fortunate to do is be able to, like an actuary, tell you based on the way this guy plays, based on the mechanics of the way his knee inverts or whatever the case may be, in a year, 3 years, 5 years, this is the probability that he's going to blow a knee or hurt a hip or roll an ankle. So that's kind of like how we look at an athlete and tell you when they're going to get hurt. Now, nothing is absolute. They can have a freak accident.
Like you said, it's percentages.
It's all based on an equation that we created that, this is the probability. And then based on that, we can help. And the nice thing with that is if you're my athlete, for example, and I see based on what I'm seeing, the probability shows in 5 years, 10 years, you're going to hurt your knee. What are you going to do 5 or 10 years previous to that? You're going to do all the exercises and all the strengthening to prevent that injury to begin with.
We have some pro players probably watching. How can they contact you and work on that? Because I think this is very interesting for them. So cannot a pro players contact you or no?
No. That's
okay.
maybe,
So
maybe
not a pro player. Forget about it. College players.
No.
No. Pro.
Pro by typically if we know somebody in common.
Oh, okay.
Then they can't just call out the blue, hey, run this for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
so guys, contact Kyle or myself, DM, and then we contact you, okay?
Something along those lines.
If it's a pro, contact him directly. Okay. If you're not a pro, the chances are
no, but if you're not a pro and you're definitely a weekend warrior. So in our office at 360 Physical Medicine, again, we talked about earlier in the show, we have the 360 way. We still look at mechanics. Yeah. We still get you where you need to be. It's not quite as in depth, but it's going to definitely be in your best interest if you want to continue to perform as an older person at the highest level, like what we do in our office. Just on the chiro side and the PT side, we have a great team. what we do collectively will definitely get you where you need to be and also help prevent injury.
Done.
Boom.
Yeah, that was really good. Very interesting. Meta Media, any question? Meta Media. Zito doesn't have any injury. He's young.
He's
so
perfect.
He's really good. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So you want to leave like some comment for people, like some
final
advices, final
remark.
And the biggest takeaway is, like from all we discussed, is layperson or elite, you work on the mentality aspect of your game, you're going to see huge strides, and always take care of your body, right? You take care of your body, especially if you're in a competitive sport. You know, that's what it's all going to be about. And then I think another one that we talked about is you're never going to rise to the occasion. Yep. You're always going to fall to the highest level of preparation. Yeah. I think just that alone, if kids can understand that, athletes understand that, they put their trust in the process.
I got one more question. I forgot. Don't close it. Sorry.
Oh, don't close. You can still
you
put
have
in
a
the
son,
music.
right?
Yes.
So if he doesn't play, do you take responsibility for that and you say, okay, I need to solve this problem for him, or do you push it on your son to solve the problem?
No, he'll have to solve it himself.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, he'll play and he gets taken out, puts on the bench, and then I was like, I talked to him after the game. I was like, from 0 to 100, how many % did you give? He's like, I gave 80. I was like, that's why 20% you were on the bench. He knows this. Yeah. He works hard, and you know, you got to train the kid to take responsibility, because at some point, mom and dad is not going to be there, right? And if you train them that mom and dad will always be there when they're not, what you're doing, you think you're helping, but you're really doing a disservice to them, right? So you at the back end, you just got to be supportive. You just got to love them, right? That's what parents are for. But you got to teach them that it falls back on their own actions.
Let them write out their own dream.
Yeah. Last question as well. At what age you think the kid should take the responsibility? What do you think as a parent?
Oh, so that's a loaded question, right? So some kids are more mature than others. You know what I mean? So it really depends on the kid's maturity level. But you got to be careful as a parent. You know, I'm a parent. I wish my kid would go pro because I wish I went pro. But the reality is you can't live through your kids. Yeah. You got to let the process play out and see where it takes them. When you see them making a mistake, you can guide them. But again, sometimes as parents, we try to correct the mistakes. We want to protect the kid, not understanding that in the long run, you're actually doing a disservice.
Boom, boom, boom.
Because we talked about that. We can talk about that later, but it was just funny. I was like, I forgot. I need to ask this question.
It was really good.
I do want to. So you brought the kids, so Z's gonna watch this. I want to shout out to Z. Like he's my son. He loves.
Let's
Coach
go,
Kyle.
Z.
He's the man.
Zizou.
And then also my nephew Issa.
Issa.
We're gonna have to look for him on the pro field at some point.
Of course.
Issa's definitely a monster.
If they are in the bench, it's because of them. Yeah. They need to work more. That's it.
Vamos.
Vamos que vamos.
We got it.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, High Soccer Academy again.
Mic drop.
There you go.
Mic drop. Yeah, mic drop.
Don't have the mic.
Thank you so much, guys. See you at the next show. Subscribe and
press the like. Smash the like button. We'll see you there.
Thank you, Spotify, to send us some dollars right now. You guys are, we are monetizing with that. I really appreciate it. And we want to build another studio.
Boom.
So if you are interested in being our sponsor, or you, so let us know. Okay?
Vamos que vamos.
Vamos que vamos.
Ciao.
Yes. Thank you.